we talked with them one-on-one, and they, you looked at them and said, please just tell me that there's going to be somebody. And they stepped out of their comfort zones to comfort Christy and the families, to like, hey, we're on top of this. We got it. We're going to.
And they did. Know. That was the only thing that I left that day when we met with them. It was like, I believe it was December 13th. And
it made a big impact on you.
I'm going to ask you both. I said, who's in charge here? And they told us, and I said, I'm going to ask you about the same question. How do you feel, 0 to 100%, that this case will be solved? And I asked him, and he said, he looked at me and he said 100%. And then I said, your turn. And he looked at me, and the second one looked at me very intensely. I mean, the first guy did too, but that look that I got from...
Don't say it, because I won't get nobody.
I know, and I was like... And that was right around the time that they were swirling his name around. And he said, 100%, this will be solved. And I was like, that's all I need to know.
So the Gonzalez family, Kaylee Gonzalez's family, one of the victims, has hired a lawyer to sort of help them navigate this process. Talked to him today, and he told me that they had a meeting with police. They're trying to improve the communication. Listen to a little bit of what he told me earlier today. Have you or the family received any new updates on the investigation?
Well, part of our delay was we met with the investigators yesterday. We met with the prosecutor of the investigators, Chief Fry, and had a meeting with all of them. Part of our that meeting, actually, the kind of the theme of the meeting was two things: was accountability and communication. We had a lot of questions that we went in with. Most of them didn't get answered because they're keeping most of the information close to the vest. But that being said, we also wanted to talk to them about communication. We feel like they haven't been communicating with the families, all of the families.
So they are trying to have better communication. He mentioned, the families were frustrated. They were learning about things through press releases, and they're hoping now that they'll have a more open dialogue. And he did basically tell me right now they have faith in the investigation and they are hopeful.
This needs to be out in the open. I'll give you a couple of examples. The state filed last June its motion for protective order of the IGG materials. That motion was filed in public. It's on the public record. People can print that and read that and do all day long. And that had information that was negative about Mr. Kohberger in it. So that's out there in the public. But that order was to protect information, the IGG information, that they say details how the state got to Bryan in the first place.
Yeah, y'all have to be so proud of her. And she was taken away from us far too soon. Can you tell us what the authorities have been telling you? We want to do anything that we can to help you, to get justice for your daughter and the rest of the victims. What are they telling you?
They're telling us that there's so much evidence that it's going to take a lot of time to process it all. This wasn't like a pinpoint crime. This person was sloppy. He did whatever. When I say he, obviously you can't say that. That's just me. But he made a mess, and there's a mess there, and they're going to have to go through that point by point, and that's going to take a lot of time. That's why they reached out to other facilities to help them with that lab work.
They do have a mobile unit on site that they said that they're able to really expedite things with this mobile unit. Hopefully, they're reaching out to other DNA processing type companies such as like 23andMe to get involved. They have not confirmed that they have DNA from this person. They just said that they have a ton of evidence. And evidently today with the new task force, the new FBI task force on site, and the FBI, of course, and Idaho State Police, they said that they were able to pull a ton of evidence from the house today.
Yeah.
And they're processing that.
So
It just takes time.
We will continue to put all of our resources towards investigating and bringing this to a resolution. Here's what we've determined so far. On the evening of November 12th, Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mulligan were at a local bar and were later at a food truck in downtown Moscow. They arrived home at approximately 1:45 a.m. on the morning of November 13th. Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were at the Sigma Chi house before also arriving home at approximately 1:45 a.m. Two surviving roommates were also out in the community, and they returned home at approximately 1 a.m. and did not wake up until later that morning.
Do you guys have any idea if the killer's still within the community, or are you looking outside the community for the killer in terms of their physical location?
We are looking everywhere that evidence would lead us. I can't say if the person's here. I can't say what community the person's in. We're utilizing every resource we can to make that location of that individual. And part of that is the safety of our community is paramount, and that's why we brought in the resource that we brought in to keep our community as safe as we can.
Being so close to the border, does that make it kind of automatically an interstate investigation? Can you comment on that?
I cannot comment on that. I'm not even aware.
If you look in Washington at all, I guess, for...
We're looking everywhere. I'm going to take two more questions.
Do you still believe this attack was done by one perpetrator? And if so, how does one individual kill 4 people at night and not wake up the other 2 roommates?
Our investigation will continue to look at all avenues of that investigation. I cannot disclose any of that information. I don't even know that information at this point in time, and that's why we're continuing to investigate.
You don't know how this happened without the other 2 roommates hearing it or waking up or noticing?
We do not.
And meanwhile, information continues to emerge about the quadruple homicide case on the University of Idaho campus, with a knife sheath found at that crime scene expected to be key evidence. Now, according to an affidavit, the knife sheath was sent to a lab in Texas since initial testing at a lab in Idaho could not connect Kohberger to the crime scene. The Texas lab had only been used for cold cases in the past. Lab workers used kinship DNA on the knife to actually match with Kohberger's father. But So we do want to welcome back former FBI Special Agent and News Nation Law and Justice contributor Jennifer Coffindoffer to speak about this. Jennifer, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Natasha.
So we know journalist Howard Bloom has been tracking this case closely. He spoke with News Nation's Brian Enton just a few days ago about that potential key evidence, the knife sheath. And we want to get your reaction to this. Let's listen together quickly.
But you're saying this lab that they sent the knife sheath to has never been used before except in cold cases?
Yes, this was the first time they were willing to take a chance. They wanted desperately to make an arrest. They wanted desperately to tie the suspect to this knife sheath.
Bringing Gary Jenkins, Chief of Police at Washington State University, which is located about 7 miles from the University of Idaho. Chief, thank you very much for being here. Can you add anything to that about why they are expanding this perimeter and also about the involvement of your police department in this case?
Well, it was news to me about expanding that crime scene that I just watched on your show. As your reporter mentioned, it's likely there's potentially some evidence there that they're going to attempt to locate. And our department, we found out about this shortly after it occurred. I made personal contact with Moscow Police Chief James Fry and offered any assistance that we could provide. And at the time, he declined that invitation, but since then, his department's received significant response from law enforcement in the state of Idaho as well as the FBI.
Well, there are so many questions here about what they mean by targeted and whether or not, I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Ted. Is it your understanding that they have anything else that gives them the indication that this was targeted by someone that one of them or some of them knew, or whether or not this is a crazed person who came from the outside?
All the information we're getting from Moscow Police Department is that it is not a random attack, that it was a targeted attack. Typically, the types of things that would lead you to come to that conclusion are the types of details at a crime scene that they don't want to release right now to the public, so that they do not jeopardize the integrity of their investigation and a potential prosecution.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be hard because obviously they're getting DNA from all of these individuals, and then they'll see if there is DNA that doesn't match the people that lived there. But one of the problems is that you had all of these people who apparently were coming and going. They called other people for help, apparently from the fraternity, to come over because they thought someone was unconscious. Just one last question, because maybe you've heard something about this. It seems that there's a big discrepancy between seeing someone in your home and saying they're unconscious and the kind of situation that's being described, which is that there was blood everywhere.
Yeah, again, I don't really want to speculate on the specifics of this investigation. I do know that there were people on different levels of that home. And there's a lot of explanations for why that might happen, but I don't really want to discuss any kind of the potential for this.
when I testify in trial, when it comes to motor vehicles, what I say is, we show a stock photo or we show a photo of the vehicle that was used in the crime. And I go, hey, listen, this is what is unique about this vehicle for those years. Because there's a range for this Elantra. It's 2011 to 2013. Prior to 2011, it was a much more basic. It wasn't as defined as or modernized to 2011, and then again in 2014 they changed the body lines on it and the front end, and also the taillights. So